Hopefully this works. Okay. Yes. Yes. It's wearing a hat today. Um, Yay! We
It.
did it. Okay, great. That was so weird.
Well, and now your screen is black and I can't see you. That sucks.
Oh, well, that was a problem when we were trying the other way. Maybe it's something to do with the screen. Is it your phone?
I
Maybe
don't
it's your phone?
think so.
Because it was the same problem before, right? Because I could see you and I could see me,
Well, and
and I.
before we did, it was like literally just me.
Oh.
So, ooh.
So,
Um, I mean, I guess, what do you want to do?
well, I mean, the cool thing is we can see both of each other, and then I don't know. I mean, I can see both of us, but you can't see both of
No,
us, right?
I
Is that
mean,
what it is?
no, and me. Let me see if I can see it on my computer, because if that's the case, I'll just turn the sound off and do it that way, which would
Okay.
be fine. Give me 1 second.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, everyone's saying they can see us. We can see both of you. Um, yeah, so people can see it. That's good.
Hey. Um,
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Okay. Um,
Technology.
I know, right? Well, it's so funny because I know that there were some lives that I'd watched recently where people were having technical difficulties, and um, oh, yeah, there we go. I can see you. Awesome.
Okay.
All right, so
Cool.
I can at least see your face if I look over here, which is fine because that's where some questions are for
Oh,
you.
perfect.
But
Great.
let's talk first. How are you? You've been so busy.
I'm good. Yeah, I've been just working. We're finishing up the last season of Shadows. We're in Toronto, and yeah, we're getting close to the finish line. So yeah, it's like I think the other day we did like 14-hour day, and it was a long day.
That's so
Yeah.
much. How do you feel about it? And it's like coming to an end, right?
Yeah, it's like coming to an end. Yeah, it's like bittersweet because and from beginning to end, like this whole journey has started like in 2018.
Hmm.
So it's kind of a long time, altogether by the time the show airs, the last season and stuff is gonna be like 7 years of our lives, to this show, and it's a long time. That's a little bit over half a decade, a little under a full decade.
Well, in
So
the last 4 years have felt like a lifetime, so I'm sure it feels even longer.
yeah, especially because the show, aired during a really hard time for everyone around the world. It was kind of a comfort show for a lot of people, and looking back, like I was like, wow, like I remember being one of the first shows to go back to work during when things were so, you know, um, weird and like crazy and like uncertain. So looking back, I figured that was probably the best thing we could do because we're not first responders, we're not doctors, but the only thing we could do was provide an escape, and that's what we do. We escape, with comedy and with entertainment. We That's what happens. They take us away for 2 hours in the movie theaters or 30 minutes on a screen, and we escape the real world for a little bit because sometimes we need an escape. And never could I imagine that I'd be part of something that would need us so badly to escape for a little bit.
Well, and I'm sure too, like between being part of like making the media, but then also being someone who consumes media, like how important it is to have that storytelling when everyone is just kind of in their houses alone. They have this like this pretend other world that they can go to in all of these different ways. So it was really important to have that sort of entertainment during that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel it was kind of the one thing that united us and kept us informed and kept us aware of what was going on. So it was, technology is great, and sometimes it's bad, but for the most part, I feel like it helps us we to move forward. So yeah, it was kind of a weird time, but yeah, we're wrapping up season 6 and super exciting. And I think people are gonna love
the new season. It's different and it's cool, and yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yay! I know that when you were in town, you were saying that you spend so much time in Toronto. How many would you say of like your projects that you've worked on have been in Toronto? Because I feel like a lot of like sci-fi and fantasy is filmed up there.
Yeah, I think Canada in general, I feel like I spent a lot of time in Vancouver and Toronto. Toronto, for the last 6 years, obviously half of the year I spend living here. And along the way, I've also come up for different projects.
So there's a project that might be shooting here in the summer that I might be doing, and I was here last summer to do this really cool um, campaign with Pinterest that I
Hmm.
did. So it was really cool. I came and did that during the summer. So I always find myself back here to work because they call Vancouver Hollywood North, and Toronto, uh, it's the same thing because at no given, you know,
Random day, there's like 50 productions being filmed, like in Canada for sure,
Oh
so.
yeah. Well, and so many of like my personal favorite shows have been filmed in Canada, and I think it's so funny that so much like escapist media is filmed in Canada specifically because it could be anywhere, regardless of where
Yeah.
you go. Like you can usually tell something is filmed in Canada by who's in it and not necessarily what it looks like.
Yeah, I feel that Vancouver, we shot The Magicians there,
and
and
it was so perfect and whimsical because Vancouver is like in 2 seconds you're in the middle of the forest, and then you keep like I bicycled through like a city of glass. It's all beautiful glass, like high rise, and within 5 minutes you are out of downtown and you're in the middle of a
It's
forest. Like
so
it's like if
cool.
it's like the Bridge to Terabithia or something. Like it's like whimsical and magical and Narnia at the same time. Like it's like you don't even need to make it up. It's right there. You just have to get on a bike or walk or whatever, and it changes within seconds. Like the your whole environment and like surroundings change within seconds. It's really cool, and I can see why it cheats for a lot of
Oh yeah.
cities. It could be like downtown New York. It could be LA. It could be but people who are from Vancouver and Toronto can always catch like those moments. People thought that we were shooting our show in Staten Island, but
we've been shooting it for Toronto to cheat for Staten Island for all these years.
Well, and I feel like the only other place that's kind of like that in the US would be Atlanta. Like there are a lot of times where I think something is filmed in Vancouver and it's Atlanta. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I can see that.
Which is also
yeah.
funny because Atlanta feels like Minneapolis.
Yeah, it's so weird because Atlanta, I that's where I shot or 2 summers ago. I shot Blue Beetle there, and I hadn't been there for a couple of years since I shot something else. I forgot what it was, but I found myself like there was like periods of time where like it was Atlanta, and that was it like for a couple of years. Then it shifted to like New York for a little bit. Then it shifted to like Toronto like for the last 6 years, um, or 7 years, and it's just it goes through like shifts. But the funny part is everyone moves to LA and Hollywood because they're like, I'm gonna make it in Hollywood, and Hollywood outsources all their shows to like other
Yeah.
cities because it's so expensive. It's so expensive to film in LA because of taxes and everything, and you get a nice incentive and tax break on other cities. So the way that works is if you go to a different city, you're guaranteed to employ like local, carpenters and costume and makeup and hair, and so that provides jobs, for people in that city, and so it kind of works out like everybody win-win, because I think LA is so overpopulated that it would be like if every production shot in LA wouldn't, I don't think would function because you barely can get around in LA traffic so bad
It's
that
bad.
imagine every production was there. There's no way like that couldn't
No.
happen.
No.
Yeah.
And I think too, I guess with like crowdfunding and I mean really just like equipment being more accessible, a lot more people are able to make productions even in their own hometowns and just places you wouldn't think. So I think the dream of going to LA to make it is changing a lot, and people are finding ways to make it where they live or close to where they live.
I think, yeah, I feel like the pandemic kind of showed that you don't have to be in LA to like get work done. Like, you don't have to get like, you don't have to be home.
Yeah,
Like, I think I think the pandemic showed that like people can actually work and spend more time with their loved ones, especially if you're a new parent, if you're a new father or mother, and having to leave. I always thought about that because we're like in America, we're like you get 2 weeks and then come back to work, and then every other country gets like months of like, paid leave to like be with your newborn, or be with a family member, or if you have some emergency. And I feel like it kind of proved that like a lot of jobs can be done remotely from home, and function, and I think that was kind of a cool thing that we learned during the pandemic,
Well,
that
and
you don't have
especially
to
like
be.
animation and voice acting too, specifically. I saw a lot of people like that I'm personally friends with pivot to a lot of voice acting and like audiobooks and animation and stuff.
Oh yeah, I didn't start doing voiceover until the pandemic. Like I
Really?
always wanted to, but it's such a hard. Like you have to imagine everybody who goes to Hollywood and tries to do television and film. That's in front of the camera, right?
Hmm.
And that's already a lot of people. But imagine how many people are out there who are like not interested in being in front of the camera. They're like, I don't really care, but I have a really great voice, or I could do voices, I could do cartoons. Imagine that like triples in numbers, because there's just way more people who are more shy in front of the camera, but very confident behind a microphone.
Sure.
And then so those numbers were always astronomical. So like to get your foot in the door was always so hard. And it wasn't until the pandemic that I kind of got I didn't start doing voiceover until my first voiceover job was with Disney. It was Owl House, and it was such a cool show. And I got
Who
to
were
play
you
something
on
with
Owl House? I love that show.
Angmar. So he was the three friends, the one with the Cyclops kind of eye. And he was the first one I did, and then shortly after, I got asked to audition for Mickey Mouse Funhouse, and I did, and it was between like two people. It was me and someone else, and I booked it, and I was like, oh, cool, this would be fun to do a cartoon. But we're on season 3 now. That's just aired. It's just like it was a new thing for me, and then it just kind of took off from there. Like then uh, I got Puss in Boots, and then I got, like filmed that, and that went on to like, be nominated for an Academy Award last year for like, uh, which is insane. Like I was just like, whoa. So I started doing voiceover during the pandemic, and I love it. And now I'm like doing it, I think so often that I'm just like, I love the different characters I get to play, because they're all so different from each other. Nightwing on Harley Quinn. That was another one. So I like
I
doing
told you I
characters.
had no idea. Like the fact that like I know what you sound like. And
Yeah.
I was like, no, I watch that all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's how kind of how my friends and family were. Like they were like, "That's you," and I was like, "Yeah, mom, that's me." It's like, "Oh, doesn't sound like you," because I think that's kind of a cool thing with voiceover, is that you can mimic your voice to do something else, and you don't get typecast in voiceover, because if you're able to show range, the difference is sometimes what you do in live action, you might show range, but people will want to see you as a specific look in a specific box, and they're like, yeah, but you're better off doing this, and you're like, yeah, but I can do over here, and then they're just like so eager to put you in a box. But I think in voiceover, I love that you can do several characters, and they don't sound like each other, and people can be surprised every time, like, that was you. And I was like, yeah, it's like, your job as a actor is to create a new character, and with voiceover you get to do that, and with live action, but you get, I think, a lot of opportunities with voiceover than you would probably with live action is easy.
So that brings me to it's not quite a question, but the Minnesota contingent said they would like you to star in a reboot of The Mummy because, and I quote, they have eyes and he deserves to be a romantic lead, and that you should get to be a sexy archaeologist.
All right then. I will
So
take it. I think that's doable. I think we should do that. Definitely push for that. I think that's doable. I do like the idea of like, that we're turning a new leaf in Hollywood, that we're making choices that represent everyone and see them in different roles that traditionally we don't see them. Yeah, growing up, I didn't see myself even as leads. We don't see like POC, queer people, like we don't see people of different sizes, like we don't see them in those roles, because traditionally the system has been built to never look at you that way. The system has always been built to see you as a sidekick or as a best friend or whatnot. And those things are great too, but never even consider you in that realm. So I'm glad that we've gone to a place where that's slowly changing, and different things are percolating, that puts actors who look and talk like me in different roles. So I'm excited for that, and that's a great idea. And that's the weird part is that's not that could be done.
Yeah,
That could easily be done if someone stands behind it and wants to produce
it
that. That could
doesn't
easily be done.
sound outlandish and it doesn't sound like it would be a gimmick. It sounds like something that could genuinely happen.
Yeah. Oh, Chippy says, Chippy 88. Hi, Chippy. We need you as a lead in a rom-com. I think that's actually one of my goals is to be like a lead in a rom-com. I think that we've seen attempts at like queer rom-coms and love stories, and they're all different and they're all great and in their way, but we haven't really seen like again someone I'm actually right now probably can't talk too much about it, but definitely in conversations about like an idea of like what that would look like as a rom-com, because I'm excited for that. I'd be really excited to see a rom-com with someone that looked like me when I was in school. That would have been really
What do you think
kind of
your
inspirational.
dream rom-com theme would be? Like, would it be like a meet cute? Would it be friends with benefits? Would it be coworkers? What would it be?
Um, well, I think I just well, it's something that I've read recently, and it's a great book, and it's kind of a idea of that. And I've been talking to the author of it, and it's called Hola Papi, and it's a great book. If you get a chance to read that, the way I like see it is kind of a really cool idea, which is like uh, someone who moves to the big city and gives like advice, like sex advice or sex columnist or like relationship advice, who lives two different worlds. Kind of like imagine the idea of like, when Jennifer Lopez is like the wedding planner and everyone's like, she must live a romantic life. And it's her by herself eating like Salisbury steak, frozen TV dinner. Kind of like two different worlds. Like sometimes you portray something differently at work and you are something different professionally and you are something different at home. But I think we all do that. We all wear a different mask, right? You're a different person around your friends, a different person around your parents, a different person around your partner. And I think that it'd be kind of a cool story idea to like live in a world where professional admire accolade in like the world of whatever chosen field, and then still trying to deal with like the dating world of a big city. I don't know, like New York or something,
I like that. It's easy, it's honest, and it's something that I think a lot of people could identify with.
Yeah, it's like an easy, like, we've all been there. We've all like kind of managed a lot of things at once, trying to navigate through this thing called life,
It's true. So I do have actual questions.
Wait, did
I made
you
sure.
notice I was wearing, this is your design. I'm wearing your design.
What? Shut
Yes.
up! Oh my gosh, I didn't even see because I've been like looking here. Let me see. Do a little twirl
It's your
for me.
little twirl.
Do a little
Look at
twirl.
this.
Yay!
Yay! I love it.
um, well, I'm glad it got to you safely. uh, so I have this question, and it's from Cressa. Cressa is, I don't know if you follow her. She does the stop motion animation that's for the what is it, the Roadhouse, the Alamo theaters, and it's all
Oh,
like Godzilla and stuff. Anyway, she's awesome.
those
Her
are
stuff
so
is
cool.
phenomenal. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
I
great.
think I went to see Barbie at an Alamo theater and it had the
So if you don't already follow her, you should. But her question is, what is your favorite giant monster or dinosaur?
my favorite giant monster or dinosaur.
Mhm.
Um, Probably I would go with dinosaur just for the fact that I was obsessed with dinosaurs when I was a kid. And like the T-Rex was my go-to, but then I started watching like Power Rangers and then I started like move on to like Mastodon, but it was kind of like not a dinosaur, but it was prehistoric mammoth. And then liked pterodactyls,
Okay.
or another one. But then I stopped liking pterodactyls when I saw that scene in Jurassic Park with.
The cage. So I go through trauma of like liking something and then finding something terrible about it. Then like, oh no, maybe I should.
This anymore. I would say T-Rex is a go-to, but
I mean, that's easy.
just. That's an easy one, I think. But like maybe like a Loch Ness monster would be another one, or like a
A monster. Well,
Ooh,
I
that
grew up
would be
with
a good question.
Chupacabra.
Yeah, like, oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I grew up with Chupacabra, where in my household I was very much.
believed and would always be in the news, like in Spanish speaking news, like we'd be watching and be like another sighting, but it was never like an actual sighting. It was like someone had found a calf or something with had been blood sucked dry or something, but never footage. So it was always like, so I think chupacabra.
Scary. I don't think I showed it to you. I dressed my son up like a Volpertinger for Easter because like
Oh,
my
you
family is
did.
not religious, but I'm spooky and I want to dress him like
Cryptids. So I made him like little, bat wings and like antlers and bunny ears. But I'm like trying to think of all the other cryptids I can dress him as for different holidays because I'm gonna be that mom.
I love it.
It's very dorky. Okay, let's
See. Dolly asks, as a fan, you can really tell Harvey worked deliberately through fashion and photo shoots to establish his style and charisma in front of the camera and on the red carpet. And they would love to hear more about that journey. And additionally, if you have any tips for achieving confidence in
style and fashion.
Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, I feel like that was an avenue that never was presented to me as an option. For the first part of my career, like, everyone's like, "Oh, who'd like dress you?" And it's like I dressed myself for like pretty until up to. I mean, I still do, but like I didn't really get any kind of help with anything stylish wise until recently when I got the opportunity to work with different designers and stylists who introduced you to those designers and whatnot. They kind of have. The introduction to them because that's really what it is. Like a stylist would get you into an atelier or like someone's house, like Christian Siriano or something like that. But for the most part, like for like the long time, I just kind of dressed myself and on a budget, because it was like stylists are worth every penny, but they're expensive. They are expensive because they do a great job, but you also have to be like constantly doing that. And I think Zendaya was just talking about this in an interview where it was like, there's moments where you want a stylist because you want to look your best and you want the best opportunity and possibility. And there's moments where you're like, I'll dress myself. It's just like this small of, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'll make it work. I'll make it work with what I have. But yeah, I really wanted to kind of put myself in a position where, why can't I, like fashion? Why can't I do a photo shoot? And why can't I do a cover? I had a publicist one time, one of my first publicists, that they basically said, I was like, I want to be like, the first to do something like on a cover or something like this and blah blah.
And they straight out loud basically said, "That's not gonna happen." And I was like, "Oh, well, like, I mean, like, not maybe not overnight, but like that should be the goal, like should work." I'm like, right, yeah, we can, but we want to be realistic, and it's not gonna. And then once I realized, I was like, if people on your team
Are like naysayers or they're not seeing the vision, those people aren't on your team. So unfortunately, I have to let them go because if you have
Good.
someone on your team who's already being toxic towards your vision, that's not the vision. That's not the vibe. That's not, that's not it.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm glad to report that like shortly after that, we did get the cover of that, and then was able to like kind of show that off and be like, it can be done. It's just like you have to find the right team and the right people who see your vision. And I think for
so
so
long, it's just easy to say no to people who don't fit the mold of Hollywood, and I'm not here to
fit a mold, I'm here to break it.
Well,
So
and they
I'm
need to
not gonna.
believe in you.
Yeah,
That's at the end of the day is your team needs to believe in you as much
yeah,
as you believe in yourself. And you're only going to believe in yourself if you've got really good cheerleaders too.
yeah,
Constantly got
yeah.
people in your ear, like what's the point?
Yeah, it's just it's true. You have to have everyone on your team has to
be
be.
on the same page, and you can't have one person who's a doubter. They can't have any doubt at all, because then it's like, ooh, maybe this isn't the team for you. It's like, but I'm just happy, to land on a great team, and super happy with the people that support me and work, uh, you know, on the team every day, because it takes a village. Like for everything, everyone sees, it takes moving parts to make something happen, and I
Just think that this business is not only about talent, because talent is great. Everyone who's in this business jumps in with the idea of like, I have something to show and talent, but I think it's about talent and the other T, which is tenacity.
Yep.
And it's about talent and tenacity, and you have to kind of keep going and like, don't let those like, naysayers like say you can't do something, just like find a different way.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally been my entire career. I mean, I've been designing since 2000, and I started designing because I couldn't find stuff that fit me, and I wasn't plus size back then. I was just curvy. And most of my adult life, I've been plus size, but the fact that I couldn't find clothes that fit me, and so I did it myself, but I still couldn't get the same kind of like mainstream eyes on my stuff, literally until I was on television. Um, and because people don't pay attention to plus size designers, they just don't, unless there's that gimmick involved. And that's absolutely changed in the last 5 years. It's all of that kind of uphill work, and now it's like, oh, we can breathe, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It's like, but it's going in the right direction, I think. Like, and it
Yeah.
feels like it's
And
going in the
you're
right
killing
direction.
it.
So
Like, you have no idea how many of these questions were literally just, when is he starting a fashion line?
I want to. I think, I think right now I'm so focused on my main passion is, acting, and I'm so grateful and blessed to like have opportunities that are, coming my way and that I am excited for. And, now wrapping something that I'm going to hold so dear to my heart, like Shadows, for so long. I'm so grateful. And, most people, most actors
would kill for just the opportunity to be on a show like Shadows and call it a day. And I would be happy, if that's the work that, I'm known for, because it's such a great show. But I'm fortunate that I have all of these other, things that are kind of coming up, and I'm so excited for the opportunities, and I'm excited for the different characters and different roles and different hats I get to put on. And but eventually that would be definitely an avenue that, I mean, it would definitely go. It would be on brand. It would be so on brand to be like open like a plus size line and stuff.
especially because I don't, growing up, I didn't see as many options A plus as people, period. But if they were, they obviously, the leading is for female clothing, and it was never for men at all. Like the options for plus size guy was like screen T-shirt and
Jeans, and you're like, oh, okay. And it was just like, that's it. And it was like, and it was always like at big and tall, where it was like, if you weren't tall, you got stuck with like a really like short and stout kind of shirt. And so the measurements were always catered to like, if you're big, you're gotta be tall. And it's
Yep.
like, well, I don't know if that's true, but there was no in between kind of thing. So that's the market that I would definitely want to like, look at. But for the time being, I'm focusing on the acting part of it.
Well, I did have another person who asked kind of an addition to that first story, or that first question. It was Julian, who, first of all, wants to thank you for being an inspiration to
Plus size queers.
Oh,
And that you're an icon, and they go crazy every time you show up on the red carpet. Um, and then Kelly wants to add to that, do you like any specific colors or patterns? Where are your tastes when you dress high fashion?
yeah, I like to like, I used to be afraid of color a lot because I was always told, if you're plus size or bigger, you will you amplify yourself bigger, right? But I think you shouldn't be afraid of the color. I mean, like last year, a year ago, this month or next month, at the Met Gala, I wore pink,
Yeah.
and that was
All Christian Siriano from head to toe, and like, it was all like Christian just designed this, and there was a wink there and the story of that behind it. And if you know, you know why he and I chose the color pink, and it was the Met Gala and who they're honoring and all of that. So I'm not afraid of color. I try to be very specific about the dimensions and like where I get like where my leg cuts off or where it elongates my leg. Like another piece that I wore to the Critics' Choice was also Christian Siriano. I just feel like the Christian Siriano like poster boy this year, which is a funny story because when I first approached him over a year ago for the Oscars, he basically said like, he's like, oh, he's like, he was really busy and stuff, but he's like, I really don't make men
wear. I was like, well, I'm not saying like, I want you to make completely like a tuxedo. I want you to do something in the middle. It's like, well, kind of did that with Billy Porter, where you put Billy in this like really amazing gown. I said, well, I don't want to do a gown. I want something between that, like where it doesn't have to be like a traditional, boring, just plain old tuxedo, and it doesn't have to be this amazing, beautiful ball gown that Billy had worn because he doesn't really design for men, like he designs
Right.
for women. And I said, and he was like, this would be the first I would do this. And I was like, then that's great. It'll be the first. And he's like, and he definitely has never really kind of designed for a plus size man. So we were like checking all these boxes off. So he designs this like, my idea was if someone in 1920 went to an award
show but was trying to wear vintage, like Victorian or Edwardian outfit to honor a vintage look. And so the hair was 1920s, and then the
Hair,
out
the hair.
and it was just like that was the hair was done by Connie, who was my hair person in What We Do in the Shadows, who helped me originate the original look for Guillermo. Like when we got to Toronto, I had already originated the curls in the center, and we kind of like perfected it. And then we kind of slowly evolved with the hair for Guillermo into a side swoop when he started becoming a Van Helsing. Like he has evolved obviously every season. And Connie was so great about collaborating
with that. And we lost her in the last like 2 seasons. She went to move to LA, and now is super amazing, successful in LA. But when I'm in LA, she does my hair because I was like, I can't, like Connie's amazing. So Connie does my hair in LA, and she did the Oscars look, and I've gotten so many compliments for that look. And Romy, who's my best friend since third grade, is my makeup artist, and she did my makeup for the Oscars. Does makeup for like a lot of the events that I go to.
That's
So it's just amazing. And so that outfit got Christian was like, oh my God, like it got so like Vogue ran it, like they got so many like
likes, and it was on every social outlet and blah blah blah. And it did so well that at his spring show last fall, for the first time, he had a men's line introduced. So he introduced like, and I was like, I can't help to wonder, like, that any coincidence to do that. How and we try this, experiment, and Christian's been great. Like, and and of course he would make amazing, pieces for menswear. Like, of course he would. And so now
we collaborated on a lot of things. I wore for the Critics' Choice Award. We did a really cool cut, which was like a midriff cut, so it was like a peekaboo of belly. Because like I don't like I like my body, like it's like, and I can show it off. And I did it in a way where it was like, whoa, it's like elongated my leg, and it does a peekaboo of like a little bit of tummy and the cut of it, and it's like a neckline that like plunges, so it shows like your chest.
and it's mesh and the hair and this giant bow on the side that you can either like take off and put on or whatever. It got so many compliments, like, on the carpet, and it's to a T, like Christian like look, but also very much me, because we collaborated in like what that would look like and how I want that on my body, how it looks on my body, because what looks good on me may not look good on someone else. But knowing what your best assets are and what you're showing off and what you want to show off, because that's what you're gonna feel the most
Comfortable in when you're showing off something that you love about yourself. So show it off.
that's literally what I tell my clients. Like you look the best you've ever looked in your life when everything just fits you perfectly, and like shows off the best parts of your body that you like the most. It's not about hiding, it's about amplifying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Yay, I love that. Okay, we only got a couple more. Didn't want to
Yeah,
keep it
everyone,
long.
hi, everyone
I know,
waving, everyone's waving, hi,
right?
everyone,
Everybody's
hi,
so like
hi.
so
No one's so
happy
nice.
in the comments. Sorry, guys. Emma, Serena, I saw you. I see you. I love you. Okay, so Story wanted to know if you were going to do a fashion line. We already talked about that, but I wanted to say their name. Let's see. Oh, AJ. In recent years, it's getting more apparent that audiences want diversity in roles, and that we all don't find one cookie cutter way of being attractive. It's still an uphill battle, clearly. I'm curious to see what roles Harvey
Would like to do, knowing his fan base doesn't just like him for being a funny guy, but for being very attractive and talented. Like, what's changed with how you've perceived the roles, and what you would go for?
Well, I mean, I like the idea that like Guillermo isn't where we started, and definitely not where we're gonna finish the series. He's evolved every, this is really cool artist who's kind of captured every season of Guillermo, um, and he's made like a really cool like illustration of him
every season. And the artist name his name's Elvis, and I think on his page on Insta it's Elio. But he's captured it. Season one, Guillermo is just simple with the sweater vest, and he's waving hello. And then the second season, it's him like kind of finding out that he's a Van Helsing, so he's holding like a crucifix and a stake. And then the third season is him with a trench coat and covered in blood. And then the fourth season, it's him jumping in midair and saying plancha. And so like every season, the stickers
or the actual pictures have evolved, and we've actually made them into like little stickers, which is really cool because you can like remember which season he's like, kind of. It reminds me of like
the evolution of man. Like it's like ape, and then it starts walking on twos and like stands up correctly. So like a character like him, like Guillermo, has been so nice to play because he evolves every year, and he doesn't know how powerful he was. Like in the first season,
if you recall, he talks really softly. When he's inside the house, Guillermo's voice is really soft, and he never talks softer than a loud whisper because he's afraid and terrified that if he makes a wrong move, if he speaks out of turn, he will be demoted because he's already been demoted so many
times by making the stupidest mistake to become a vampire. He can't afford to lose, another year, another 10 years. Remember in the pilot, we see him where he says, happy, 2-year anniversary. He's like, 10 years. I've been your familiar for 10 years. He's like, 10? Really? And to a vampire, what is time? Time doesn't exist. But to a human, time is everything. It's so precious every minute that goes by. I'm no longer as youthful and young and wonderful and beautiful as you were a minute ago. Every time the clock ticks, it's kind of scary because he's running out of time and he's not making his dream come true. So with that being said, he never got the experience of being seen as like, oh, he's kind of like badass, or oh, he's kind of sexy. He's because he never gave himself the opportunity. Now when he becomes comfortable in his own skin, we see him with more like fitted clothes, and this is something I talked with Laura Montgomery, our Emmy award-winning costume designer for the show, that like his outfit has become like more custom to who he is. Every year he becomes so more comfortable. In his Van Helsing era, he was like tucked in pants, high boot, like fitted vest. You see his shape, you see his curves. He's not afraid of them. Rolled up sleeve with the leather glove. Like all these things are thought out. Like they're not by accident. Like conversations have been had, and like Laura and I have talked about it, and then the producers talk about it, and everything's thought out because there's an evolution happening with him. So small details, even the small details of like opening the top collar button on his uptight collar shirt that he used to wear season one has now become looser. He's become relaxed. He can breathe a little bit more. Small things like that, that as we know, costume is so important to a show and to a character, that with Guillermo, it's no exception. It's just like it's so part of him. So I like that I got to play so many different characters
Yeah.
in a short span of time, in one body and one character that this show has. And going forward, I want to play just as many characters in different ways, in different forms, or a character that has layers like that has multiple layers, that it's not just one note. That's my goal, is to always play characters that have like, you can peel away at them.
I love that. I love it. And I love that the costume designer also like helps build the character with you. Like I feel like those are always the ones that kind of come across on screen, is the that relationship of the costume designer and the actor playing the character, creating the character together.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great when you can collaborate like that, And that's saying that's not all the time. Sometimes like the costume designer is like, this is what we're doing, and that's it. And you show up and you have to wear it, and that you make do with it. But I think that we work with such a cool team that collaborates, and we want the best for the show. So everyone just communicates, and it's like great. Like, I made that hairdo for the audition, and I never thought that I would wear that hairdo for the show because I was trying to age myself, because the character of Guillermo was written 20 years older than I am. So I never thought I was going to be able to play Guillermo. And so I try to make myself look older for the character, thinking it would get me through the door, but never be used for the show. And when we went to the pilot, Taika and Jermaine, specifically Taika, was like, "Yeah, what did you do for your hair?" And
I was like, "Oh, I curled it like that." And he's like, "That's what we're doing." And the clothes that you wore, they just mimicked the clothes and the hair that I had done, and the glasses. I wore fake glasses, these Harry Potter glasses I got. That I never really dress up for a character audition. I never do that. But for some reason, for this, I was like, I have to like try to make myself a little bit different and older, and it all 7 years later paid off.
I mean, it was a brilliant risk and it
Yeah,
worked.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Let's see. Mimsy
Oh,
wants to know what your favorite musical is.
oh, well, I have like favorites, like classic favorites that I grew up like watching. My favorite musical that I ever saw on Broadway was probably like Wicked, and Hairspray. I love those. But recently, I really have fallen in love with Kimberly Akimbo. It's on Broadway right now, and it's based on a book, and it won the Tony this year. I've My friend Bonnie plays one of the characters. She is a powerhouse, and it's just a great show. If you get to catch, I think it's like on its last couple weeks on Broadway. So if you're in New York and you
Debating to go see a show, I would say go see Kimberly Kimbo. It's really, 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 really great.
Kimberly
So
Akimbo.
Kimberly Kimbo,
Okay.
yeah, go see it. It's great. But I think that's my favorites. Those are my go-to. And Little Shop. I think like Little Shop is like another favorite of mine.
Nostalgia. That was my dad's favorite growing up, so we used to watch it like at least once a month for about
Oh,
2 years.
nice.
Yeah. April says, I'd love to know if you have a favorite outfit or costume you've worn for a role, and if so, why?
hmm favorite outfit or costume for a role. Uh, I think that would probably be, I mean, I really loved my magician's outfit that Benedict got to wear,
Me
and
too.
the fans were so amazing, that when the costumes were being auctioned out at like an auction house, they bought Benedict's outfit and had it shipped to me. Like it was like out of the blue, didn't expect that. And then with the lovely note that said, "This belongs to the person who wore it and brought this character to life." And I still have that. I still have that.
Costume safely bagged in a garment bag in my closet, and it was a beautiful costume. And I think costume does make you fall into character so much easier. And when I ever put that costume, because it was intricate with like the crossing of the beautiful glistening green and gold across the chest, and you connected the buckle on the side, and he had this like metal pin on the side, and once you put it all together, you completely feel like Benedict. And I think that was a great one. And of course, the iconic sweaters that Guillermo has worn over the years.
Which I have one of, and I have the original glasses and one of the original sweaters. So yeah.
Yeah, when you told me about the magician's fans getting you that costume, like I got
Yeah.
misty. Like that is so beautiful, and I love that you can really tell how much that fandom appreciates every single person who has been on that show. But that is so beautiful, and it was
Yeah,
It's just
it was
really
lovely.
sweet.
The fans, and we still have those fans, have always been so wonderful, and they've have followed us through like our careers. Like, I'm, really good friends with Hale Appleman, and he was very close to our costume designer for Magicians, who unfortunately passed away a couple years ago.
yeah.
And one of the most lovely women ever. When you walk into her dressing rooms, like he was just like,
The energy was just like, let's create magic. Like, that was the idea, and open to suggestions, and would sit down and look at you and then be like, what do you think about this? And how about, and like, oh, like, she was really great. And I only got to work with her a handful of times, the times I visited Fillory and like went to Vancouver to shoot. But yeah, she was really great, and a loss to like the world of like costume and design and stuff, because she was so great. But how great that her designs.
and her work will live forever,
Well,
you know?
I know that I had talked to you about the fact that like I finally got like I don't get starstruck about a lot of things, and it's usually these like niche things. So like I was too nervous to reach out to her.
To my
And I
golly.
finally,
Oh,
yes, I was
oh,
too nervous to reach out to her. And when I finally built up the nerve, that's when I found out she had passed and it had happened 3 days prior. And
oh my
I was
God.
so brokenhearted that I like wasn't braver. You know what I mean? And I was like, never
And
again,
the thing is
never
that
gonna do that
she
again.
probably would have responded to you immediately. She was
Yeah.
so great that
That's
way.
what I've
Like,
heard.
yeah.
Every single interview I have heard from anybody who's been on that show, they spend at least 10 minutes talking about how wonderful she was. And I don't think I've ever heard about that from a costume designer before. Like people just out of nowhere bringing up how great they are.
Yeah, no, it's true. And
if you ever get a chance to talk to Hale, like Hale has beautiful stories. He spent a lot of time with her, towards the end, and just spend really quality time. And Hale's, a wonderful soul himself. So I think, yeah,
he would have really great stories as well. It was great. It was a great experience. Like Magicians was really fun, and those, the cast and crew and everyone was really wonderful. So it was lovely to work with them. And yeah, I see them once in a while, so it's always nice. Oh, we got a question here from Splend. What was your favorite part about being on RuPaul's Drag Race?
Ooh.
favorite part. I think iconically, I had met RuPaul before briefly, but being on the show, like I remember watching the show, when I was younger, and it was like thinking of like if you were a judge on RuPaul's Drag Race, like you had made it, like in queer culture, like you just made it, like it was like you made it. So to be a judge in it last season, I was watching
Episodes last night, catching up for this season, and it was just I still can't get over it. Like it's like such an iconic shot of like everyone behind the panel. It's like four people, and it was just it was great. It was just like even I put a thought into the outfit that I wore, and only a couple of people picked it up, but it was a wink at Barbra Streisand's Academy Award winning outfit when she wears the giant bow and the glitter or the sequins kind of top dress thing. So I wore a top similar to that, and I think somebody on Twitter caught it.
and I was so happy because I was like, I wonder if anyone's gonna catch this, or is just gonna be me wearing a big black bow and this shiny top. And someone did catch it, and I was like,
Like, see, you can't, like it's
Someone's
people.
always good. There's always going to be
People's
at least one
always
person who gets it.
people are gonna get it. I just had the best time ever, and to find out that the crew was a big fan of the show, like I was fanboying over, the show itself, like being at RuPaul's Drag Race, and to have like the crew,
like the grips and the sound, and people were, can I take a picture? And I was like, oh my, I'm like literally in the candy store, and it was so nice to like be somewhere where
it was just the same. We were both just like gushing over each other, and it was great. It was just like Michelle was wonderful, and like talked to her for a while. Like it goes so
She's super
quickly too.
nice.
She's super nice.
Yeah. She and I
Yeah, it's
judged
just
something here locally once, and we just ended up talking about like our mutual interests and glasses because like I don't really watch Drag Race, but like we liked all the same things outside of Drag Race, and I was like, we're glasses friends now. Clearly,
yeah,
yeah, I like her a
yeah,
lot. She's cool.
yeah, and they were great, and yeah, I think that was
probably it, like the actual experience of being there, and kind of like, and you have to remember, like last year was probably the craziest year of my life and career. Like it started off with a bang. Like it started with like the Academy Awards in January and February, like for Puss in Boots, and the Golden Globes, and like
award shows for Puss in Boots, and then we filmed Drag Race, and then it was a year of craziness of like ups and downs of like writer's strike and the actors SAG went on strike, and I had a movie come out for Blue Beetle, and then it was such a weird year of like really highs and really lows,
Yeah.
but you take it all together, because it was like it was so weird. I see a giant billboard in Times Square with your face on it with all the cast with George Lopez, who I did, Lopez versus Lopez because like we become friends, and like I grew up watching him, and we couldn't advertise it. We couldn't advertise this giant billboard on Times Square because you couldn't, because it was a strike happening. So and then that happened, and then in front of that billboard, a taxi cab went by with shadows on the top of it, like what we do in the shadows, and it was like only in it was like the highlight of like, oh my God, I have a show on the air.
On a taxi, and then a giant billboard, and I was like, the accomplishment that, like, hard work had like paid off to this moment of like, this is so cool. But there's something really cool about just having it for yourself,
Yeah.
and not necessarily having to like, because I always like to like share all the good news like in my socials, because I feel like when I don't, like, people always come at me and they're like, you haven't been around for a while, or like, you've been gone for a couple of days, or if I take a week off or something and don't post anything, because I like to keep everyone like up to date, because I'm really transparent when it comes to like stuff like that, or like, what's coming up or what I'm excited about or my beliefs about something. um and I hadn't done that all summer because of the strike, and something about it was like, oh, but then something about it was like, you know what, it's fine, because it's like you did it, and like you are happy with the work you did, and then
It's out of your hands. It's out of your hands, and whatever happens is out of your hands. And it was a lot of it was out of our hands for last summer. But it was a crazy year, but a great year, and I would do it all over again.
I'm glad you were able to find the like silver lining in it too, honestly.
Yeah, because it was tough. It was a lot, it still is. People are, it was tough. We're not filming and working as a community for like 6 months, half of the year, and now because of the repercussions of
what happened and the time taken off and whatnot, it's just like a ripple effect, and it's affected a lot of people,
Yeah.
from actors and writers and costumers and directors and grips and carpenters. It trickles down
Yeah.
all the way, to like catering. Like, it's just like, it takes like a literal village to make your favorite show and your favorite movie come to life. Um, and people forget that.
those people, need to have livable wages and health insurance, and that it's kind of crazy because I've been in that situation where like I would be on a show and people are like, oh, I saw you in this episode, and I you know had barely made enough to like get health insurance that year.
Yeah.
So there's moments of that where people are like, oh, but you're on TV, you're fine. But TV's not what it was before, and movies aren't what they were, because there's so much content now
Yeah.
that it's like there's no way people are making the money they were making in the 80s or something,
Yeah.
it's just like it's so saturated now. So we really got to support, artists when they tell the public like, hey, we're gonna do this because we want.
What's best, like, for us and for our future, for our family. We want to continue to make art for you, but we have to make it be, a livable wage, or livable, and get health insurance.
Well, and at the end of the day, like you've got entertainment is a job and you deserve to get paid for a job. You're not doing the job as a favor for people. You deserve to be paid for it. And also, if there wasn't entertainment,
People would be upset. So why not pay people to make the thing they want?
Right.
It's so easy. And it's not like
Yeah.
people, the artists that are working on this stuff are taking advantage of people. Like they literally just want to keep their lights on. It's not
Yeah.
that hard.
And the thing is that like we have to remember that every time this happens in history, when there's a pandemic or the Great Depression, the first thing people run to is entertainment. The first thing you run to is you take a nickel and you go to the movie theaters, and
The Great Depression, because you can sit in a room and escape for hours with a bucket of popcorn. So you got food and you got entertainment. And so whenever something happens, and when the pandemic happened, everyone went through all the streamers and all the content so quickly, because you needed to escape, and you weren't going to work every day. You needed to like forget about what's happening outside for a couple of hours. So it would behoove us to remember that when funding school projects. And sports are great. And like, I come from a family of sports lovers and whatnot, but the first thing that always gets cut is the arts in high
Yep.
schools, elementary and junior highs.
so it would behoove us to remember that if something bad happens like that, it always is entertainment that you run to, because you can't run to sports because if it was a pandemic, it's not healthy. You can't have people kind of playing in the field, but you can have footage that can live on itself safely and you can stream, but you have to do it in a safe way. But like I just think it's so funny that people always run to entertainment, but that's the first thing that gets dropped out of schools when budgets are cut.
Well, and if you look at it was the writer's strike in 2007, and then directly after that was the recession,
Mhm.
and everyone was mad because the writers went on strike because social media wasn't what it was. People thought they were
Just like being selfish. But they, eventually were able to work things out, and people were like mad because they're like, we deserve to have entertainment. And then they're like, oh, but we want entertainment now that everybody is like jobless because of the recession. And then after all of that and everything started to grow back, we had this like golden age of television. And I'm really hoping that's what comes from this is this golden age of media again. So that people like A, respect it more, B, just appreciate all of the work that goes into it.
and like stop questioning why people want to get paid these living wages to make these things that everybody clearly needs.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, I see the Myrna, who plays my mom in What We Do in the Shadows, is in. I see her in the comments. She said, "Well said, clap." That's from my TV mom.
Hi, TV mom. Yay. I do have one more, and then because I don't want to keep you forever, obviously, and I should probably go tuck in my baby. He's at home being a baby. So Amanda wants to know what brings you the most joy in the work you do, and what brings you the most joy outside of work.
The most joy that brings me outside of work is probably spending time with my family. The most joy that brings me at work is when I can create something that I'm proud of, that I know I did my best at, and feel I can walk away. I'm the kind of actor that, like, even if this, like, if I'm doing voiceover or something, and they're like, "Oh, that was great, yeah, we got it," and then if I know myself, and I'm like,
I know that wasn't my best. Like I know I can do I can do a little bit, just a little bit better. I know myself. And it's not because I'm being like, no, keep going. Like it's more like I know what I can do and I can bring something. And if I know that I haven't done that yet, I'll be the kind of actor who's like, can I just do one more? And then they'll say, oh, we got it. But if you want to, sure.
and then like 9 out of 10 times, the director will be like, "I'm glad you said let's do one more, because that's the one I'm going to pick now." Because it's always that. So I always like to push myself to that. So nothing makes me happier than to collaborate with like other artists, that we can create something that will be amazing and
Will live forever, like it's kind of like that idea. But what brings me the most joy is when everything I love is tangible and is within 5 feet. So that means my family comes and visits me on set. That means I'm working, I'm in front of the camera, or I'm working doing something, but everything I love is tangible and it's within 5 feet.
That's beautiful. I
It's
love
true.
that. I love it.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing. I love it. Mm. Well, I don't know.
Is there anything else you would love to chat about before I let you go for the night?
No, I mean, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for my amazing piece that I get to wear and be fashionable with. I think, it's just a good conversation to have. All these are great questions. All of the people who sent questions, thank you so much. Everyone who said hi and hello and popped in.
And I can't wait for everyone to see this last season of the show that we've been working really hard at. And I can't wait to,
Yeah.
to talk about it some more in the future.
Well, I'm super happy that we found time to do this because I know that you've been just bonkers busy. If you ever want to do this again, I know people have a billion questions about fashion stuff about you because you're like style icon. And then, yeah, I know people want to see it. So if you can save it afterwards, then we can
Post it. But you're awesome, and I appreciate this a lot.
Aw, thank you. Have a good night.
Bye.
Bye. I'm gonna save this.